Good morning. Hi guys. I know a bunch of you weren't able to attend that art Zoom that we had when I showed a little project about doing a Mother's Day project since we are not in school this year, not in a school building. So we did an art Zoom and we just drew a little spring picture and I guided the kids through it. So I'm going to show you what you need to get started. So just a pack of Crayolas, just a few colors, even if you just want to grab probably some green and yellow, mostly what you'd need for stems. Any other colors, up to you. You don't have to have these watercolors. A brush and some water and a cup and some paper. I have a couple different kinds. I have some lightweight paper to sketch on, and then I have some heavier weight paper. The heavier stuff's going to be better because we're going to be using paint, and of course you want it to be able to hold the paint. So like I said, we're going to do a little Mother's Day picture. So moms, if you're in the room, I want you to hop out of the room so we can try to surprise you. So, oh, you also need a Sharpie. So if everybody wants to pause for a minute while you go get those things, markers, Sharpie, watercolors, brush, paper. Okay? All right, so to get started, what you want to think about drawing are just many shapes. And I have a start of some here. Some that are kind of like circular shapes like this. And some that are kind of like this little U shape with a little oval around it here. And then you're going to be doing a series of these types, like this pointed one and then this oval here. So these can turn into petals. So what we're going to be doing is creating a scene of some flowers, kind of like if they're in a garden or in the wild, and a couple examples. Neither of these are done, but this is sort of kind of what we're looking at finishing up here. Note how some of them are tall, medium, and short. There's space between them. We're not loading it up all the way. I chose to work vertical. If you want to turn your paper horizontal, you can have shorter flowers and you'll just have more of them across. So if you have some time, I'd recommend practicing a few of these shapes. One of the other designs you could do is a circle here and then just adding little shapes around it. Most of you have done flowers like that. The cool thing about this is we want to do these more like design style flowers instead of realistic. So adding a lot of lines and patterns and dots in between them. So it gives them kind of like a unique, like artistic flair rather than like the ones you'd probably just see in the wild. So for these ones, what looks really cool, I think, is to repeat this line. You can see this. Just go real slow and do those nice and neat. Also, I want you to try some line variety. That means, I feel like this isn't showing all the time here. Sometimes the line is thick and sometimes the line is thin. So let me try it here on this one. It's kind of awkward not drawing on my whiteboard, showing you guys what to do here. So just by going over the line a few times, sometimes you can make it thick, thin, and that can create an illusion sort of like a rose. You can add some more of these around the outside. Okay, so once you start those, you're going to turn it into the flower garden. So you can see what I did on this one. After you draw each flower, each one needs a stem coming down. And if there's nothing in front of it, you can go all the way down. If you do have things in front, you draw, skip, draw. So let me go to my practice one just here for fun. I'm going to actually finish this flower out here. If you do decide on a type of a petal, you should repeat it all the way around. And just like we always say in school, good art takes time, so go nice and slow. I'm probably not going to take the time to finish each one of these flowers like you will. I'm just going to kind of speed it up here. So if you can imagine that each of the flowers looks more like that. The other idea that looks really good, I think, is to add just these little kind of like floating dots. I've been working out in my yard a lot in the flowers, and I've seen some flowers that look like this, like just like little circles. And then you can connect them together for little stems like this. So back to the stems idea. These should be really, really skinny. Much skinnier than your Sharpie. I like to give them a little thickness so I can fill those in with green later. And I also like to make them not perfectly straight. So did you see how I drew, skip, draw, skip, draw, skip, draw all the way down? That creates that overlap. Draw, skip, draw. After you get your stems all in there, then add a few leaves. And those are just tall, stretched out, kind of like wavy triangles. You could make some that are rounded. The cool thing about in nature is there's not really mistakes, and if you make a mistake on something, you can turn it into something else quite easily. So I also like the bottom of this not perfectly straight. If you make some high and some low, it makes it a little more interesting. And notice how I left a little bit of space. And look how there's some of these high, medium, and low. So when you look at this, your eyes kind of like dancing around. Pull up a couple other ones just to give you another idea. So these are ones I took more time on earlier. Even in the leaves, if you go back in and draw these lines, adding a series of dots in between, just looking at all these details here. You can pause this at any time if that helps. I don't expect you to keep up with this video. I'm just kind of doing it quick here. Okay, so when you're ready for the color part, there's a couple ways you can do it. Since the stems are so skinny, I don't have this really skinny brush available that I'm using, so I'm just using this thicker one. So what you can do is use a marker, of course, and just fill that color. And then you don't even have to fill it all the way in, because the good thing is with water-based markers, you can get these wet and they will bleed. So that's kind of fun. We've done that before in school. And now I'm going to use some yellow right over top of that green. So I think that'll mix and make that nice chartreuse color. Just kind of scribbling it in there so when I paint it, it'll all bleed together. Now again, if you look at this one, look how there's blobby white areas around it. It's not all filled in. You could choose to keep some of it white. And just like in school, we usually use the yellow first. So get your brush wet. Scrape off the extra water. You don't have to tap it. If you scrape it, then all the bubbles, all the water falls back inside. Remember, you have to wet your watercolors down a lot so that they'll work. So I'm getting a lot of yellow on my brush. Just gonna start, maybe this one should be yellow. And I'll put a little bit of yellow on these little dots too. Whoops, I keep forgetting to hold this up. Rinse your brush when you're under a new color, scrape, and go to your next one. Remember the thing about watercolors? If they're wet, they're gonna bleed together. So if you don't want the colors to mix, don't go side by side and let them touch. That yellow one is not touching my pink one, so they're not gonna bleed. But now I wanna put some orange in with my pink. That'll look pretty, so I want it to mix. So I would just kind of skip around your page and paint a little bit of each color where you think it needs it. I kind of like to stick with my warm colors in the flowers and then put my cools in the background. You don't have to do that. You can do any colors you want. If you know for sure you don't want colors to bleed at all, you could set this down and let it dry for a little bit. I love putting like a turquoisey blue in my background. I'm just going to start putting some of that around my flowers. Again, this is a really nice heavy paper. The heavier your paper is, the better this is going to work. If you have to use like copy machine paper, it's kind of hard to use with watercolors because it gets all ripply and doesn't soak up the water. It soaks it up so much that you can't really paint very well with it. So I just got a bad drip there, so I'm just going to keep on rolling with it. Remember on these ones where I use the marker, if I just get that wet, the marker will just kind of smear in there. Perfect color, like a lime green. And I don't think mine's done. I'm going to keep working on it, but I'll stop the video so it's not too long. Again, you guys can pause this whenever you want. I'm going to do a lot more art zooms. It's kind of fun when everyone's doing these together because all of us are holding them up to the screen. This is just a quick example of sort of how they turned out. And hope you can have time to do it before Sunday, which is Mother's Day, and surprise your mom. If you do get it finished, upload it on the Padlet that I've created. I have links of it on the dojo, and I'll try to send some in your class and school dojo as well. All right, hope you guys had fun. Bye.